Ja, fangen wir mal an. Möchtest du dich vorstellen?
Nee,
musst du
nicht,
nicht.
weil,
Okay, gut.
du weißt, wer ich bin und ich
Ja.
gehe ja davon aus, dass das Ganze wirklich nur für die Uni ist und
Ja.
bestimmt auch anonym ist. Also
Ja,
deswegen
ja, ja.
kann ich mir nicht vorstellen.
Keine Frage. Okay, gut. Das Ganze ist auf Englisch. Als allgemeine Frage nur, how long have you been at BBDO?
Almost 5 years.
Okay. What do you understand under the term employer branding? This is not BBDO specific. No.
Das ist eine gute Frage, weil es ist als Employer Branding ist natürlich so, du willst natürlich so gut wie möglich. You need an English?
Yeah.
All right. Well, employer branding, you need to be able to attract. You need to be able to build a brand. Like you need to be able to build a brand for consumer products or anything else. For consumer product, you need to attract consumers. For a company, you need to build a brand to be able to attract people who want to work for you.
Okay.
And I mean, it's basically another way of building a brand just for a different target group. In this case, future employees.
Would you say that employer branding is an important key when delivering business solutions or creating good advertising? If so,
well, in a sense it is, because through good employer branding, you attract better talent, and by attracting better talent, your output is usually better.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, indirectly, employer branding is incredibly important, because if you can't attract the right people, you cannot deliver the output that you want.
How would you define BBDO's corporate culture, its internal positioning and the core values as an employee?
Let's start with corporate culture. I think it's it is a very team-oriented corporate culture. BBDO employees do try to help each other out within one office, across different offices, across different countries. It's usually very easy to be able to work with other offices together and really be able to create a good solution or a good creative idea, even across multinational countries. And that shows that's a certain teamwork character that exists within BBDO.
So you would say that the corporate culture has the same definition globally, or would you say that differences maybe between the offices?
Well, I think it's country specific. There are always some offices that have the French culture in general, for example, is always a bit different. So you have a little bit of but in general, when people meet from all different kinds of offices, you will sort of have a uniform understanding that you work for BBDO and that you know that you can help each other out, and you all have that collaborative spirit in all BBDO offices.
I mean, this question is quite similar, but maybe it will give you some more ideas for specific answers, like which value do you think or have experienced does BBDO's corporate culture have for the daily business?
Well, I think one of the key things that BBDO always says is it's the work, the work, the work. I'm sure you know you know that. And it's basically what counts for BBDO is the creative output and the creative and strategic output that BBDO can deliver for their clients, and that always comes first. and especially I would say creativity always does come first, and that's why we have the terms the work to be able to deliver the best work we possibly can.
Even though BBDO is delivering different advertising executions to different clients, would you say there's still always a hidden tone of voice or corporate identity? For example, you watch different AdWords, but where you could get a clue that this comes from BBDO, like a certain quality point, for example. Or...
I think the quality or the creativity, you can see that a lot of the very creative and very good advertisements do come from BBDO. I wouldn't say that you can see an ad and think, yeah, this is from BBDO, because in the end we're working for our clients. Mm-hmm. So you need to we create an ad that is specific to our clients. However, obviously with the quality of work and the creativity, here you can actually say, in a lot of cases you can actually say, oh, this could actually be a BBDO commercial.
Going back to the employer branding, looking back, the questions are quite mixed up, because I experienced in the past that when I mix up the questions, people get to a different point, and when you come back and ask again, the answers are a little bit different. So, looking back 10 years ago, would you please state differences and changes within the employer branding and recruiting system of BBDO and the advertising market?
Well, it's a bit difficult for me to say something about 10 years ago because I started BBDO 5 years ago. I think BBDO in general has been striving constantly to have a good employer branding and a good, it's constantly striving to be a very well-known employer to talent out there. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, all it comes down to, we need to be able to attract the right talent to deliver the correct output, and we constantly try to improve it. But I think that I think what's changed is probably the channels we're talking, the communication channels we're having nowadays when we're talking to future employees. It used to be much more paper. You used to have much more, I'd say, paper applications and paper and everything. And nowadays you have the channels like Xing and LinkedIn and Facebook and the social media channels. So you're using much more these channels in addition to others to create employer branding.
A question which just came into my mind is some agencies from BBDO, if you want to work within strategy, first say you have to work in account management and then swap. Would you say the system counts for BBDO proximity as well?
I think so. I mean, yeah. BBDO proximity is, it has a high, of course, BBDO proximity, these are two agencies that were merged, but you still have, but I think in general, all BBDO agencies do work in certain basic things quite similarly.
If you could change one thing in advertising, doesn't have to be related to BBDO, what would it be and why?
I think one issue we always have, and which is constantly in the press, at least in Germany, is the fact that a lot of people don't want to work in advertising. Many cases because the salaries are too low, the hours are too long, the appreciation is not as high for people as it used to be, and I think this is something that really is a shame, actually, that you don't that a lot of people prefer to work in industry instead of advertising because they get better pay. In general, sometimes they think the jobs are more attractive, and at times it's difficult to make jobs in advertising attractive for the right people.
If you could change one thing about BBDO, what would it be? Could be anything. Could be the breakfast on Monday, or...
That's a difficult question because
it can be really any even like any random thing.
What I really did like actually, and which is a shame that it's gone, apparently because it wasn't used a lot, is that we used to have every morning breakfast up here in the cafeteria for the employees. And
5 days a week.
5 days a week. And that unfortunately changed. And I think that was actually quite nice because especially the people who came in early always were able to socialize a little bit and use that. In the end, I don't think it was used enough to keep the breakfast up, keep this little tradition up, but I still think that maybe once or twice a week it would be nice, in addition to just have an opportunity to socialize with some people from different departments or from different accounts. Because one thing at BBDO is clear: if you work in a certain account or in a certain number of accounts, you tend to hang out with the people who you work with, and it's actually quite nice to be able to meet some people who work on different clients and to exchange ideas, because that's how, again, you get new ideas. So I think that kind of exchange would be a nice breakfast.
Do you remember when you heard first about BBDO? Where, when?
That was a very long time, not that long, but I think it must have been late 90s when I started working, when I started working for Ogilvy, that I actually did hear about BBDO. And I mean, Ogilvy is a great company, and BBDO is, especially in Germany, I mean, they're all Ogilvy and BBDO are both top agencies. And I do have to say that we did hear quite a bit of BBDO as being, I think, at that time already #1 agency.
Could you explain what perception you had of BBDO when you heard about them?
I always had a good perception of BBDO, and I think BBDO is an extremely strong brand, and there are a lot of good people who work for BBDO, and I think that's always what the kind of perception that we always had, was the fact that they deliver great advertisements, they have great quality, they have great people, and a lot of the great copywriters and founders of big agencies, they all started their careers at BBDO.
Which key challenges do you face for BBDO as a corporate agency over the next 5 years? Or as a network, to say it better.
I think in the end it really does actually boil down to the fact of attracting and retaining the right talent. Because in the end, if you cannot attract the right talent, it's going to be very difficult to actually produce the good ideas you need to produce and to be able to service clients. And I think that actually does boil down to, because of course I can say something about digital and whatnot, but these are of course challenges, and these are all things that we need to think of in the future, how we can integrate the channels and everything, but in the end you can't do anything without the right talent.
What do you see as the most important factors when brands choose BBDO for delivering them solutions?
Well, I think the clients usually, they look at the team setup, they look at the people who are presenting, they look at the team. A lot of times they want to get to know the key people who are going to be working on the account. They look at strategy, how good the team performed in strategy, how well the team presented in general, how well they interact with each other. Clients tend to be very sensitive to that, how well, if they have the feeling the chemistry is good or not. And in the end, the campaign itself, the work, is coming out.
Do you think that Button & Company, Catch and Play, and Interone and Salvatel work within the same corporate values as BBDO Proximity?
Well, they're all BBDO, so they all have their own. I mean, they all have their own little identity, because in the end, Button & Company is first of all Button & Company, and then it has a BBDO BBDO company. Button & Company used to be called BBDO Consulting, and but they all have certain. know that they belong to the BBDO network. And especially Batten and Company, I think, yeah, they do have the same values. And Catch and Play On and Sell by Tell, I would say, yeah, they all know they work for BBDO, and they all. I mean, you have to look at the other side, that they're different. Their business is quite different.
Mm-hmm.
Catch and Play On in the PR arena has a little bit different business than BBDO Proximity does. And Sell by Tell definitely has a different business model as BBDO does, BBDO Proximity does. But in the end, when you talk about values, then again they're quite similar, even though their work is different.
Well, it's quite almost the same question, but do you see them as one BBDO, or would you see them as partners?
No, they're seen as BBDO.
Okay. What is the biggest employer joy when working for BBDO?
The biggest what?
Employer joy. Being an employee of BBDO. The biggest joy about it.
Being an employee at BBDO?
Yeah.
I have to say, I really like working with a lot of talented people who create great work, and to be able to actually be able to share this work. When we share the work every Monday, we look at different. I mean, you've seen the Monday sessions to know what it is, and what I really like about it is you get to know what other units are doing. You get to know what kind of work comes out of there, and to really be able to share this work and work with people who are incredibly talented, I think is the biggest enjoyment.
Which role do you think do interns play within the corporate culture? For example, would you say for the time they're here they do adapt the corporate values, or are they just like adapting a part and then they leave? And on the other side, which impact do they have for the employees which constantly stay here?
Well, I think interns, it depends always how long you are here. If you're here only for a short period of time, it's difficult to adapt completely to the BBDO culture. I do hope that they get a certain sense of quality, how much BBDO actually does emphasize quality in their work, that they do get a sort of sense how the agency works itself, and I do hope that they actually get some sense how they get some understanding of how other regular BBDO employees work here, and maybe also to copy a little bit what others, if they think somebody's doing something particularly well, to actually copy a few things and see and learn in the end.
That were all questions.
Those were all questions? Okay.
Yeah, so far. I don't know.